In the shadowy depths of the astral repository nexus, the Zynix swarm dismantles myths with cold precision until Terra, a chaotic death world of killer storms and reckless humans, defies their logic. Led by the sardonic Vexer, they uncover tales of humanity's absurd defiance, kissing vipers, surfing tidal waves, through vying where none should survive. Is it madness or mastery? Dive into this cosmic unraveling to find out. Like and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more captivating videos, and to inspire even more amazing content. Deep within Sector K9 of the Astral Repository Nexus, 8 floors beneath the nutrient dispensary and perilously close to the Office of Transrealm Footwear, the Bureau of Legendary Interspecies Tales Blit operated with mechanical precision. Here, myths of every species were analyzed, debunked, and filed away under cold, calculated logic. The staff, an anxious, twitchy swarm mind species called the Zynix, relished in dismantling the absurd. Led by the sardonic overseer Vexer, the team was currently absorbed in the grueling task of categorizing a new shipment of doomed planet legends. Preposterous primate delusions, Vexer muttered, scrolling through the data. Among the data trove, one particular entry caught the Zynix leader's eye. Myth 77 Delta, Terra, the so-called annihilation sphere of killer storms and lunatic apes, a world of explosive air, venomous seas, and humans who dance with death, careening skyward in fragile shells. And calling it glory, to Vexer, this was just another ridiculous myth to be shredded. He tapped the console, pulling up a fresh batch of sketches depicting humans in absurd scenarios. Two-legged figures grappling with fang-dripping serpents, and caption, Outback, kiss the viper. Won a prize. Vexer's mind buzzed with disdain. These primitives think they can survive this. The myth sounded too outrageous to be believed. But as the data streamed in, doubt flickered. Every test, every analysis, all pointed to the same conclusion. Terra was a world beyond reason. The Zynix leader shook his head. The sheer idiocy. He had seen it all, species taming the wild, surviving impossible odds. But nothing compared to this. Yet there was the nagging detail. Terra's legends weren't just stories. They were confirmed by numbers, by species across the galaxy who couldn't deny the myth anymore. Vexer's skepticism began to crack. He rubbed his mandibles, wondering if the impossible was about to become all too real. Chapter 2. Terra Myths Exposed. In the cold, sterile silence of the Bureau of Legendary Interspecies Tales Blit, Vexer's eyes narrowed as the next series of images flickered onto the display. The words Terra and preposterous primate delusions remained etched at the top of the report, but the data streaming in from multiple species across the galaxy now added an unsettling layer of credibility to the long-dismissed myth. The Zynix leader leaned closer, his mandibles twitching in thought. One image, in particular, stood out, a human hanging from the edge of a cliff, holding on to a venomous, fang-dripping serpent, the caption reading, Outback, kiss the viper. Won a prize. Vexer scowled, considering how the myth had grown in legend. Humans on Terra, it seemed, threw themselves into the jaws of danger, not for survival, but for sport. The image was laughable, a testament to irrationality, yet the data behind it suggested otherwise. According to reports from over 19 species, and even corroborated by a histrionic algae colony from the Lyran system, humans engaged in these reckless acts as part of their daily routine, conquering death with nothing but raw willpower. Skydiving, Vexer muttered, shaking his head. The report detailed humans leaping from fragile metallic shells in the atmosphere, as if death itself were an afterthought. The numbers were staggering. 38 million humans participated in these glory jumps annually, with a survival rate of 99.8%. For a species with a reputation for embracing extinction, that statistic was nothing short of miraculous. This is supposed to be myth. Vexer's voice rose, a rare crack in his usually controlled demeanor. He flipped through the file, showing other feats of survival, humans tackling dangerous animals, wrestling venomous serpents, and surviving extreme climates with nothing but basic tools. The Zynix leader had thought of Terra as nothing more than a chaotic mess, yet the numbers didn't lie. The myths were real, and the implications were staggering. "We've underestimated them," Vexer muttered, rubbing his mandibles. Terra wasn't just a death world. It was a proving ground, one where humanity had not only survived, but thrived. Chapter 3. Tavern Debate. The myth becomes a joke. The cracked Nebula Tavern was buzzing with its usual chaotic energy. Aliens of all shapes and sizes swirled around the bar, their scales, tentacles, and odd appendages clinking mugs of Zard juice, a thick, noxious brew known to burn through your sensory receptors like hot acid. In the corner, a group of patrons, reptilian poets, philosophers with slabs for bodies, and stock-eyed jesters, debated the most recent intergalactic mythologies. They were deep in discussion about Terra, and from the sound of it, the humans of the world were about to be torn apart by laughter. Skydiving, Kliss, a slithery, snake-like creature, hissed with disbelief. They leaped from machines into the abyss for fun. "You must be joking." Borv, a thick-set philosopher who resembled a moving stone monument, leaned forward, his gravelly voice booming in the low-lit space. "It's not just for fun, you fool. They do it to save their young. Skydiving, to catch their offspring. Like," he paused, realizing how ridiculous it sounded, "like they're taming the air itself." The table erupted into laughter. The idea of humanoids throwing themselves out of flying machines just to save the next generation seemed laughable to these advanced beings. To them, it was absurd. There was no logic in it. Kliss snickered. "How utterly ridiculous. These so-called primitives think they can control death with such reckless stunts." Just as the laughter reached its peak, the tavern door slammed open with a deafening bang. The patrons froze. Dust and debris swirled into the tavern as a figure emerged from the haze. Jax, a scarred human, dressed in a torn void suit that looked like it had seen better days. His boots were caked with the dirt of countless uncharted planets, and his eyes glowed with the kind of defiance only a human could possess. "Oi, got any brew that doesn't claw back?" he growled, brushing dust from his suit and spitting grit onto the floor. The bar fell silent. A reptilian poet, Kliss, choked on his Zard juice, his eyes wide with disbelief. "You're Terran," he stammered, his voice a mix of awe and caution. Jax smirked, his teeth flashing. "Name's Jax. Took on a lava geyser with a wrench and a prayer last week. 1. He leaned against the bar casually, as if surviving death was the most mundane of tasks. He didn't even seem out of breath. In his world, where storms could vaporize you in seconds and creatures twice your size could hunt you for sport, Jax had seen it all and lived to tell the tale. The room was paralyzed, the earlier jesting forgotten. The humans had arrived in the flesh, and they weren't the joke anymore. They were the terrifying truth. Jax's entry shattered everything the aliens had believed. Humans had survived the impossible, with nothing but their bare hands, primitive tech, and a sense of indomitable will. They conquered the very world that others believed was doomed to destruction. The myths were real. The reckless, absurd stories of human defiance were no longer myths. They were undeniable truths. And Jax was living proof. Technology highlight, Jax's suit, patched together with high-tech yet simple gear, was proof of human ingenuity. His spacefaring technologies, basic survival gear that had seen far too many repairs, were more advanced than the tavern's patrons could comprehend. They had never faced a world as dangerous as Terra, and yet humans thrived in it. Chapter 4. Jax, the levying proof Terra's myths are real. The cracked Nebula Tavern was quiet for what felt like a lifetime, the air thick with uncertainty. Jax leaned against the bar, his arms crossed and a smirk on his face, while the room of alien patrons, who moments ago had been mocking humanity's so-called death world, stood frozen. The very myths they had laughed at were now standing in front of them, embodied by the scarred human who had come crashing into their lives like a meteor. "Your turn," Kliss, the reptilian poet, hissed again, his mouth agape in stunned disbelief. Jax's eyes glinted with a mixture of defiance and amusement. Name's Jax. Took on a lava geyser with a wrench and a prayer last week. 1. He shrugged as though he'd just told the weather forecast. The nonchalance in his voice contrasted sharply with the magnitude of what he was saying. His words were a direct challenge to everything the galaxy's most enlightened species thought they knew about Earth. The tavern, typically a place of laughter and debate, was now quiet, with all eyes locked on the human who seemed to laugh in the face of death. His simple statement defied reason. Lava geysers, no sane species would dare confront such a danger. Yet Jax spoke of it as if it were nothing more than a Tuesday morning. Jax leaned closer to Kliss, his voice lowering to a mocking whisper. Yeah, you think it's absurd. Tell me, Kliss, how many times have you almost been eaten by a predatory bird the size of a mountain? Or had your ship's hull cracked open by a tree branch thrown by the wind? Jax gave a short, bitter laugh. Welcome to Terra. The alien poet's mouth moved soundlessly, the absurdity of Jax's claims sinking in. Take skydiving, Jax continued, his smirk growing wider. You all think it's some kind of lunacy, right? Well, let me give you some stats. Every year, 38 million humans strap themselves to machines and jump, yes, jump, from flying vessels, diving into the atmosphere. It's called a sport, not a death wish. He leaned back, his arms casually folding as if to demonstrate how trivial this was to him. Survival rate? 99.8 Fentrum. Hell, on Terra, we make a game out of cheating death. It's practically our pastime. Jax's words echoed through the tavern like a challenge. Here was a world where every possible threat, storm, predator, natural disaster, was faced head-on. Where humans didn't just survive, they thrived. As the shock slowly wore off, the patrons began to stir, exchanging glances. The myths, those absurd tales about Terra, about humans leaping from sky machines or taming predators with nothing but their bare hands, were no longer myths. They were truths. Jax was levying, breathing proof that humanity's resilience was far beyond anything the galaxy had ever understood. Technology highlight: Jax's simple, worn-out suit was an artifact in itself. It was made of adaptive fibers, capable of self-repairing tears and reinforced with lightweight alloys. It had seen countless battles with Terra's chaos, withstanding the harshest storms and even surviving multiple encounters with aggressive predators. His survival tech, built from ingenuity rather than high-tech luxury, was a testament to human perseverance and resourcefulness. Chapter 5. The Probe BLIT's Desperate Mission. The Zynix were on edge. The once indomitable Bureau of Legendary Interspecies Tales Blit, a bastion of knowledge and skepticism, was now grappling with the irrefutable reality that Terra's myths were far more than fiction. Vexer, leader of the Zynix swarm, stared at the flickering holographic map, his mind racing as he processed the staggering information Jax had delivered. The laughter, the disbelief, all felt hollow now. We've made a grave miscalculation, Vexer muttered, his voice carrying a rare edge of unease. The normally composed leader was shaken, his worldwide W, built on centuries of logic and factual analysis, was crumbling in the face of human defiance. Every myth, every tale they discarded as absurd, now stood tall in front of them as undeniable truth. They had to know more. We need confirmation, Vexer said sharply, the decision forming in his mind like a sudden shockwave. The Zynix leader turned to Zilp, the nervous novice clerk, who had been fumbling with the console, desperately trying to avoid Vexer's gaze. Launch the probe, Vexer ordered, his mandibles clenching. We'll send the team to Terra, see it for ourselves. If the myths are true, we need to understand why. If they're false, we will finally end this nonsense once and for all. The room went silent as the Zynix gathered around the central console. Zilp quickly input the data, connecting the Blitz top-of-the-line probe, a state-of-the-art vessel capable of handling the chaotic nature of Terra's atmosphere. The shuttle, equipped with adaptive shielding and high-tech climate stabilizers. Was the Zynix's best attempt at surviving the impossible conditions of Terra. It was designed to handle extremes, heat, lightning, high radiation, but nothing could prepare them for what was to come. Team members: Dr. Thrin, xenologist; Zilp, data analyst; myself, Vexer announced, his voice gaining strength. "We're leviathans now, Doctor." Thrin's antennae twitched nervously, his pale skin a stark contrast to the hard, confident demeanor of the Zynix leader. He'd studied the data, but nothing could have prepared him for the storm that awaited them. Still, he steeled himself for the mission ahead. "I will gather the data needed to assess Terra's biome, but I must warn you, if even half of this data is true, we could be walking into the deadliest environment we've ever faced." Vexer's mandibles curled into what could only be described as a smirk. "Then it's a good thing we've got the best technology the galaxy can offer, isn't it?" He replied coldly. With the press of a button, the probe launched toward Terra, slicing through the galaxy at 0.9 light-years per second, fast enough to break through the most hazardous sections of space, without incurring catastrophic damage. The mission was set, and in less than a few hours, the Zynix would have their answers. Technology highlight: the probe was a marvel of Zynix engineering, designed to withstand Terra's ferocious conditions. The adaptive shielding was capable of redirecting 4,000 terajoules of energy in a split second, preventing it from being vaporized by any atmospheric anomaly. The onboard systems included climate stabilization tech that adjusted internal temperatures by 500 degrees Celsius in real time, designed to protect the crew from extreme weather swings. Yet, all of this advanced tech was little more than a makeshift solution to Terra's chaos. Chapter 6: Entering Terra, a Deathworld realized. The shuttle cut through the vastness of space, slicing its way toward Terra with eerie precision. On board, the Zynix team, Vexer, Dr. Thrin, and Zilp, watched in silence as the blue and green planet grew larger on their screens. Terra was notorious throughout the galaxy for its ferocious weather patterns, toxic atmosphere, and the relentless dangers it posed to all who dared to venture close. The myths they'd mocked now loomed in front of them, real and terrifying. "I can't believe we're actually doing this," Zilp muttered, his tendrils twitching nervously. His usual confidence was gone, replaced with a palpable unease. Terra had always been a distant enigma, a Deathworld myth, nothing more. But now, it was about to become the team's most dangerous field study. Vexer, the unflappable Zynix leader, kept his focus on the approaching planet. His mandibles twitched in concentration. "This is the only way to confirm what we've learned, Zilp. Keep your focus. The myths may be real, but so is our technology. We'll be fine." Dr. Thrin, the xenologist, clutched the sides of his seat, visibly trembling. He had spent his career studying alien ecosystems, but nothing had prepared him for Terra. The planet was home to more species than any of them had ever studied, and yet, the sheer unpredictability of its climate had always been a looming mystery. "We've analyzed the data, the storms, the hostile fauna. Everything suggests an environment incapable of sustaining life, let alone thriving. But here we are. Let's see if you're right," Vexer replied with a cold, almost predatory confidence. "Prepare for atmospheric entry." With a soft hum, the shuttle's retro thrusters engaged, and the hull began to heat up. The Zynix's advanced atmospheric shields activated, absorbing up to 4,500 terajoules of energy per second to counteract the immense pressure of the entry. This was no ordinary planet. Terra's atmosphere was a chaotic stew of lightning storms and violent turbulence, the kind of environmental disaster no species could predict or survive without the most cutting-edge technology. As they descended, the shuttle encountered turbulence that made the vessel lurch violently. The onboard systems immediately compensated, adjusting the craft's position and diverting energy to stabilize the environment inside. Temperature fluctuations reached as high as 700 C, but the shields held strong, dissipating the energy before it could even make its mark on the shuttle's hull. Through the viewport, the landscape of Terra began to reveal itself in shocking clarity. Sweeping storm clouds, jagged mountain ranges, and massive wildfires burning in the distance. Lightning arced across the sky like angry fingers. The reality of the Deathworld was much worse than any report could convey. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning struck the shuttle, the powerful shockwave sending a jolt through the vessel. "Doctor!" Thryn yelped, but Vexor remained stoic, tapping a few commands into the console to stabilize the ship's systems. The technology worked flawlessly. After all, it was designed for this level of chaos. But even with the best tech in the galaxy, there was no guarantee they would make it through Terra's trials unscathed. "We're just getting started," Vexor muttered, his eyes gleaming. "Welcome to Terra." Technology highlight. The shuttle's adaptive shields absorbed 4,500 terajoules of energy during atmospheric entry, enabling the crew to survive Terra's harsh conditions. It also featured an auto-adjusting climate stabilization system, capable of withstanding temperature shifts of up to 700 C. But even the finest technology could only do so much on this brutal planet. The true test was yet to come. Chapter 7. The Tame Zone Disaster Chaos Unleashed. The shuttle touched down with a low, vibrating hum, its landing gear sinking into the surprisingly soft earth of Terra's surface. The vast, seemingly tranquil landscape before them was deceptive. The air was heavy with humidity, and the ground beneath their feet felt unstable. "Doctor!" Thryn's antennae twitched nervously as he peered through the viewfinder. Despite their successful entry, Terra was not about to let them off easy. "This is it, I guess," Zelb murmured, tapping at the console with shaking tendrils. "We're in the so-called tame zone, and everything seems peaceful." Vexor remained unmoved, his mandibles clicking in thought. The Zynix leader knew better than to trust anything Terra showed at first glance. They'd read the data. They had prepared for extremes, lightning storms, volcanic eruptions, predatory creatures, and atmospheric pressure capable of crushing the unprepared. But this was something else. "Stay sharp," Vexor ordered. "There's no such thing as tame on Terra. Even the calmest parts of this world are likely to turn deadly." The moment the shuttle doors opened, the landscape they had studied via holograms came to life in startling detail. High winds gusted at 120 kilometers per hour, bending the trees and sending dirt flying in every direction. The sky was darkened with storm clouds, casting long shadows over the desolate plain they had landed on. But before they could even react, the ground beneath them seemed to shudder. Without warning, a sudden flash of movement came from the right. A large bird of prey, easily the size of a small shuttle, swooped down from the darkened sky. Its wingspan was nearly 6 meters, and it let out a high-pitched screech as it dived toward them. The crew scrambled for cover, but the bird's talons missed them by mere inches. "Is that normal?" Thryn gasped, his voice higher than usual. He looked at Vexor, who was already pulling out a small device from his belt, which activated with a soft hiss. "Not in the slightest," Vexor muttered, his fingers tapping furiously at the device. A high-frequency sonic pulse emanated from the small device, sending the bird screeching away. But just as quickly as it had attacked, the atmosphere shifted. Jax, now standing just outside the shuttle, let out a low whistle. "Welcome to the tame zone, fellas," he said nonchalantly, already scanning the horizon with a sharp gaze. Before they could respond, a gusting wind of such force slammed into them, nearly knocking them off their feet. Vexor's swarm mind activated the shuttle's atmospheric stabilizers, adjusting the pressure inside to ensure their safety. But the force outside was far beyond anything the Zynix had prepared for. "This is madness," Zelb said, voice trembling. "How does anything survive here?" "Oh, this is just breakfast," Jax quipped, tossing him a rag as if they had just gotten caught in a light drizzle. The Zynix were still reeling when the next shock hit them. A rogue hydrojet, a man-made machine, numbered out designed for irrigation or water control, suddenly turned on its own, blasting a pressurized jet of water straight into the team. Thryn yelped, his robes soaked through instantly. "Ambush!" he cried, stumbling backward. Jax laughed, wiping his face with a rag. "Nah, sprinkler season," he said, tossing a second rag at Thrin. "Get used to it, pal." Terra has a sense of humor. The chaos continued. As the team staggered forward, trying to gain some semblance of control, a small rodent, no larger than a loaf of bread, began pelting them with hard nut shells. One struck Thrin in the eye, causing him to stumble and curse under his breath. "This is a war zone," Thrin shrieked, brushing off the water and nuts. "War zone," Jack scoffed, looking down at him with a smirk. "This is Tuesday." It was only the beginning. The shuttle's power grid surged as the team advanced further into Terra's tame zone. But Jax wasn't fazed. He pointed to a nearby lake where massive ripples began to form. A scaled leviathan, with jaw-shredding teeth, breached the surface. The creature was the size of a freighter, its thick, plated skin gleaming under the stormy sky. "All right," Jax grinned, stepping forward. "I've got dibs on this shore." He pulled out a metallic stick, the same tool he had used on dozens of encounters before, and casually pointed it at the leviathan. The beast hesitated, then with a snort, backed off. Thrin was stunned. "You just told it to back off." Jax nodded. "You gotta know how to talk to him. They respect boundaries." Vexor looked on, his mind reeling. Terra was no myth. It was alive, chaotic, and unforgiving. But what was even more unbelievable was that humanity didn't just survive here. They thrived. And with Jax as their guide, they might just have a chance to uncover the secrets of this violent world. Technology highlight: the Zynix shuttle's atmospheric stabilizers ensured the crew's safety. In winds gusting over 120 kilometers per hour. Even with these advanced technologies, nothing could protect them from the unpredictability of Terra. Meanwhile, Jax's survival gear, simple yet efficient, enabled him to stand firm against the savage conditions, from high-pressure jets of water to unpredictable wildlife. Chapter 8, Facing a Leviathan Human Survival at its peak. The shuttle's engines hummed softly as the crew disembarked onto Terra's unstable surface. The tame zone had proven to be anything but. Jax was already several paces ahead of the Zynix, his boots crunching against the dry, cracked earth of the alien world. Vexor, Thrin, and Zylp followed cautiously, each member of the team clearly on edge. The earlier chaos had left its mark. Every step forward felt like a misstep into the unknown. Yet, despite the raw peril that surrounded them, there was an undeniable sense of awe in the air. Terra was alive in a way that few planets could match. Then, a roar cut through the air, deep, guttural, and all too familiar. "Brace yourselves," Jax muttered, his voice low and calm. He scanned the horizon. "We've got company." From the horizon, a massive shape began to emerge, its presence cutting through the dense fog like a towering shadow. The Zynix crew froze. What they had assumed was a distant storm now revealed itself as a massive leviathan, a scaled sea creature the size of a small freighter. Its eyes glowed with a menacing yellow hue, its body writhing through the churning waters of the nearby lake. Its mouth opened wide, revealing rows of jagged teeth capable of shredding metal. Vexor's swarm mind flared with urgency. "What is the thing?" he demanded, his voice a mix of disbelief and fear. "It's a leviathan," Jax said, eyeing the creature casually. One of the more friendly residents of Terra. Zylp was the first to speak up. Friendly? He sounded genuinely confused, unable to reconcile the size and ferocity of the creature with Jax's tone. Jax's eyes glinted with something between amusement and defiance. "Yep, well, unless you piss it off. But we're not here for a fight. This isn't our first rodeo." He pulled something from his belt, a reinforced metal rod, designed for anything from defense to basic construction. Thrin, looking somewhat reassured by Jax's calm demeanor, took a hesitant step forward. "Do you have a plan for this?" Jax grinned, pulling the rod back like a spear. "I've got a plan. Just gotta show some respect. These guys don't go for the tame the beast routine. They like it when you take charge. Watch." Jax strode confidently toward the Leviathan, the creature's massive, scaled body looming over him. The Leviathan's eyes narrowed as Jax approached, For a moment, time seemed to freeze, the tension in the air palpable. Then, without warning, the leviathan lunged forward with a terrifying speed. In a flash, Jax threw the metal rod toward the leviathan's head, not to strike but to gain its attention. The rod flew through the air with a perfect arc, slamming into the leviathan's thick skull with a resounding thud. The creature paused, then lowered its head, sniffing the rod with curiosity. Jax stepped closer, moving with calm precision. "Back off, Spike. I've got dibs on this shore." The leviathan, after a few more tense moments, backed away, retreating back into the waters with a huff of resignation. The crew watched in stunned silence. "It's like you told it what to do," Friend said, his voice a mix of amazement and disbelief. "Yep," Jax replied nonchalantly. "Humanity's secret weapon, confidence, and a little bit of tech, of course." Friend took a cautious step forward. "That's incredible." Jax's grin widened. "That's just Tuesday on Terra." He wiped his brow, glancing back at the Zynix team. "You see, this world might be chaotic, but it's not impossible. You just need to know how to deal with it." Vexor's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. "So, humans, you survive this. You don't just survive, you thrive." Jax nodded. "We don't just survive, we make the world bend to our will. Terra's got nothing on us." Technology highlight: Jax's reinforced metal rod was crafted using advanced nanoalloys, making it capable of withstanding extreme impacts. Though designed for construction, it was a tool that had proven time and again its worth in dealing with Terra's dangerous fauna. Despite the technology, it was Jax's confidence and mastery of the land that truly set humanity apart, showing the Zynix that survival wasn't just about advanced technology. It was about human ingenuity, adaptability, and relentless spirit. Chapter 9: Terra's reality, a war zone of survival. The wind howled through the plains of Terra, carrying with it the promise of chaos. The Zynix team, still reeling from their encounter with the leviathan, moved cautiously forward, each step fraught with tension. What they had expected to be a tame zone was quickly proving to be anything but. The storm clouds above churned with electric fury, flashing with streaks of 10,000-volt lightning, while the ground beneath their feet seemed to vibrate with the tremors of some unseen force. The air was thick, heavy with the scent of ozone and burned earth. "This is insane," Zilp whispered, his tendrils trembling as he glanced nervously at the turbulent skies. Jax, leading the way, had been eerily calm in the face of each new challenge. "Just another day on Terra, Zilp. You're gonna get used to it." Vexor, however, was far less optimistic. The Zynix leader's sharp mandibles clicked in frustration. The planet's erratic behavior wasn't just unpredictable, it was dangerous, and they were only scratching the surface. "If this is tame, I'd hate to see what happens when things get real." As if on cue, the ground beneath them began to rumble. The once steady earth shook violently, a tremor that rippled through the team's feet and up their spines. "Earthquake," Thrin gasped, eyes wide with panic. "No," Jax replied, turning to face them with a smirk. "This is just another day on Terra. We call this life." Before anyone could react, a massive boulder, larger than any of them could have anticipated, came crashing down from the cliffs above. It smashed into the ground near the shuttle, sending a cloud of dust and debris into the air. The force of the impact sent the team sprawling, but Jax, ever the optimist, was already on his feet, brushing himself off with a shrug. "Welcome to the safe zone," Jax quipped, giving Vexor a pointed look. Vexor swarmed mindward in frustration as he glanced around. The once safe area was now a literal battleground. Rocks rained down, trees splintered in the distance, and every living thing seemed to be at odds with each other and with the Zynix. This wasn't some accidental disaster. This was Terra, in its rawest, most violent form. It was a war zone of survival. "Keep moving," Jax ordered, his voice cutting through the chaos. "There's more coming, and we need to get to the shelter before the next wave hits." The team quickly followed him as he led them through the increasingly hostile environment. dodging falling debris and navigating through a maze of shifting rocks and unstable ground. The shuttle, barely holding together after its previous encounters, was no longer an option. They were on foot now, and there was no turning back. As they moved deeper into the plains, the sky darkened even further. The clouds above churned and crackled with energy, lightning arcs streaking across the sky in every direction. Thorn looked up at the storm, then at Jax, who was moving with an almost nonchalant ease. "How do you do it?" he asked, incredulous. "How do you live like this?" Jax paused, turning to face the group. His expression was serious now, his usual grin replaced with a somber intensity. "Simple," he said. "You don't live on Terra. You fight for it. Every damn day." Technology highlight: Jax's survival tech, adaptive boots, reinforced clothing, and an integrated energy shield had been tailored to protect him from Terra's chaos. His boots, equipped with shock absorbers and capable of withstanding 1,000 kilograms of force, kept him grounded even when the earth itself seemed to rebel. The shield embedded in his jacket had absorbed multiple lightning strikes without failure. Its 10,000-volt resistance a testament to human ingenuity in the face of Terra's unrelenting fury. Yet, it wasn't just the tech that kept Jax alive. It was his uncanny ability to adapt, to read the land like a map, and to act without hesitation. Terra didn't just test humans, it redefined their capacity for survival. Chapter 10: Jax's final broadcast, the ultimate dare. The ground beneath them trembled again, sending a low hum reverberating through the shuttle's hull. Outside, the storm seemed to rage with even greater fury, the lightning now nearly constant, arcing across the sky in thick, jagged lines. The crew of the Zynix was visibly shaken despite their technological prowess and training. They had faced Terra's chaos up close, witnessed the deadly creatures and unpredictable weather, but nothing could have prepared them for what was coming next. Jax, however, was unfazed. He stood at the front of the shuttle, his gaze fixed on the storm swirling above them, a grin playing at the edges of his lips. "Time to show you the real Terra," he said, turning to the Zynix crew. His voice was low, confident, as if this was just another day in the park. "You're going out there, Doctor?" Thorn asked, his voice tinged with disbelief. Jax gave a half-hearted shrug. "Of course. You didn't think I'd leave without making my mark, did you?" Vexor's mandibles clicked in reluctant admiration. "Are you crazy? The storm's worse than anything we've seen so far. It's a death trap out there." Jax laughed, the sound carrying easily over the roar of the storm. "If you're not pushing your limits on Terra, you're not levying." Without another word, he grabbed his helmet, securing it to his head. He turned, flashing the Zynix team a final, almost cocky smile. "This'll be a broadcast you won't forget." As he stepped out into the tempest, the storm's intensity hit him immediately. The wind howled with gusts up to 160 kilometers per hour, and the rain fell in sheets, so dense it was almost like a solid wall. Jax didn't flinch. His advanced environmental suit, designed to withstand temperatures ranging from -60°C to 150°C, kept him comfortable despite the punishing conditions. The suit's adaptive layers hardened when exposed to extreme pressures, shielding him from the battering winds and debris. He strapped himself to a salvage hull, an old piece of shipwreck he had found earlier. It had become his tool of choice for the stunt he was about to pull. With his heartbeat steady, Jax activated the integrated thrusters in his suit, launching himself onto the hull with precision. The thrusters, capable of generating 3,000 newtons of thrust, propelled him into the chaos. Jax was surfing a tidal wave, a 30-meter-high tidal wave that had surged from nowhere, crashing across the shoreline with immense power. As he stood atop the hull, skimming over the churning water, the leviathans beneath the surface could be heard, rumbling, growing, but never quite approaching. They were no match for Jax's raw, unflinching confidence. "Dared myself to ride the beast," Jax shouted into the calms, his voice clear despite the winds. The Zynix crew, watching from the shuttle's viewport, could only gape in awe as the storm intensified, waves crashing higher, and the massive sea creatures remained at bay. For a moment, everything felt suspended in time. Jax, the sole human in this elemental chaos, seemed as much a part of Terra as the very storm that raged around him. "Terra doesn't break us," he continued, laughing into the microphone as the waves towered behind him. "We break it," with a laugh and a middle finger. Suddenly, the transmission flickered, then cut off. A final crackle of static left the crew in stunned silence. The feed went black. The broadcast was over. But the message, that would echo across the galaxy for eons. Technology highlight: Jax's environmental suit was designed for the extremes of Terra, weathering 160 km/h winds and protecting him from both extreme cold and heat. The integrated thrusters were used to control his movement over the tidal wave, propelling him at speeds capable of outrunning even Terra's massive waves. In the end, it wasn't just the technology. It was Jax's ability to defy all logic, to face Terra head-on and come out victorious. Chapter 11. The Down Under Gauntlet Humanity's Anthem. The stars above Terra glowed with a cold, distant light, but beneath them, the planet raged with chaotic intensity. The Zynix crew, HFYing, barely survived their brief stay on the so-called tame zone. Watch the last flickers of Jax's final broadcast, now cut off by the brutal storm. The silence inside the shuttle was deafening, only broken by the low hum of the failing systems. The data on their screens still flickered with traces of Jax's wild, defiant ride on the tidal wave. But the man himself was gone. Vexor sat back, his mandibles twitching. The crew was still in shock. The myths had been true. Terra wasn't a myth at all. It was an unspeakable challenge. A world so hostile that even the most advanced technology couldn't fully predict or control its fury. Yet, humans like Jax had turned it into their playground. "Jax has become more than a person," Vexor said, his voice unusually somber. "He is an emblem of humanity's strength, of defiance." Zilp, still trying to process everything, spoke up. "You're saying he's the embodiment of all the legends?" "Exactly," Vexor replied. "Humans thrive in the chaos. They don't just survive, they conquer." His swarm mind raced, processing the impossible feat they had witnessed. Jax's actions had defied every expectation. The Zynix had believed Terra was uninhabitable, a world where no species could survive for long. But humanity had made it their own. "What do we do now?" Zilb asked, the question hanging in the air like a palpable weight. Vexor's mandibles clicked in thought. "We go back. We broadcast Terra's true face to the galaxy. It's not a death world. It's a gauntlet, a proving ground. Humans didn't just survive it, they've reshaped it." As the shuttle lifted off and the Zynix crew set their course back to the astral repository nexus, they knew that Terra had become something else entirely. The myths had shifted from ridicule to reverence. The planet, once written off as a death trap, had now become humanity's anthem, an anthem of unshakable resolve. Technology highlight: the shuttle's reinforced engines, capable of withstanding the pressure of Terra's atmosphere, now engaged, propelling the crew back into space at 2,500 km/h. It was a seamless escape, but the memory of Terra, and of Jax, would linger long after the Zynix reached the safety of their homeworld.